Carl and Brother here from Games, Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for sure. And it is reaction time. I almost said, and it's album review time, but not quite. It comes from an album review that I've written. It's Luna Kills and a brand new album, Deathmatch, out April 4th via Shotton Records. And we're going to be reacting to one of the tracks from it. I've chosen this at random. Basically, I've looked and gone, well, these are the singles out, and there's about 4 or 5 of them. Which one should we do? I could pick and choose any of them, and I've chosen Slay Your Enemies. No particular reason, or lengthwise, really. I wanted to keep this one short and tight. A good little showcase of what Luna Kills are doing in regards to sort of modern alternative metal ways, knowing that there are elements of this that will maybe not be to Brenna's liking, taste potentially, but there are also elements that might be. And just sort of see kind of what you think really more than anything else. I reviewed this album. At the time of recording, I wrote the review for this album or finalized it today. And it's probably my 4th or 5th listen to this album in full. It's only like 30 odd minutes long, so it's quite digestible. And I kind of came away quite satisfied and pleased with the overall thing of it. But I'm intrigued more about this reaction to get a different an opinion, someone else's opinion on one of the what I think is likely to be one of the more fan favorite tracks, particularly from a live side of things. I can see this popping off live, particularly from a sing-along perspective, and I'm intrigued to sort of see if what you think of that. Unless, of course, I'm talking to someone who is already the biggest Luna Kills fan. Am I?
Never heard. Oh, well, I don't think I've ever heard of Luna Kills. I would say that my instant reaction, and I haven't even pressed play yet, is the grammar Nazi in me is screaming at the song title.
Yeah.
You are for your, and this we're all scared of capitals.
That's just text speaking, it? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know, but we're not texting. but but the other point I was gonna say, you said the album's not actually out yet. That as of the time of recording, no? But
The
then
album is.
this video's been online since October the 1st, 2024. So these singles have been like long time kind of build up then towards the album.
Was kind of a lot of bands, not a lot of bands, but I'm noticing more with bands, particularly with EPs often, where the songs are now kind of released way in advance, bit by bit, and maybe 1 or 2 are left off. But particularly with an album like this, I think like it's just a modern way of doing things because of playlists and because of Spotify algorithms. I think like you're getting like half an album sometimes depends from the more modern bands doing this. I don't
Yeah,
really
maybe.
understand it.
I'm not criticizing it. It's just surprised me. That's 6 months ago.
Yeah.
That's like, oh wow, okay. And yeah, that's why I was surprised when you said the album wasn't out yet. But there you
Yeah,
go.
April 4th. So we've got a bit of wait in this one. Well, as of time of recording, but by the time you see it, it'll be the week of release.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
mean,
let's
other
just
than
dive
that,
in.
I'm obviously terrified now because you've said there are potentially elements of this that I'm not gonna like. So let's find
Well,
out.
it's mainly because there can be some egregious electronic out, but let's
All
dive
right.
in. Yeah. In 3, 2, 1, go.
The world is spinning like nothing's wrong. Heading every single day I'm taking on. I cut you to pieces, I'll give it a go, cause the point is clear. Slay your enemies. I got that panic, panic, panic crawling in my spine. What the fuck's that? To stop the second to get to my sunrise. The world is spinning like nothing's wrong. Heading every single day I'm taking on. I cut you to pieces, I'll give it a go. The point is being clear, but I'm getting lost. Cause every day hurts a little more. Riding on the wall to see, like pushing daisies from the sea. Slay your enemies. I want to make you bleed. Riding on the wall to see, like pushing daisies from the sea. Slay your enemies. I want to make you bleed. I got that panic, panic, panic crawling in my skin. I put the lights out to try to numb down. It's better than the pain. Bleeding out cause she gets bored. Self-preservation's out the door. And every day hurts a little more. Riding on the wall to see, like pushing daisies from the sea. Slay your enemies. I want to make you bleed. Riding on the wall to see, like pushing daisies from the sea. Slay your enemies. I want to make you bleed. Push it down, push it down.
right. There we go. 249. So not going to overstay its welcome, as it were.
Hmm.
Yes, slay your enemy by Luna kills. Are you going to slay your enemies?
I mean, I would do, but I'm like old and can't be arsed.
Yeah, it's a lot of work actually.
You get old enough that you just go, oh, just ignore me enemies. Can't be bothered with any of that slaying bollocks anymore. What do I think? What do I think? Right. I did know, like, I don't know. I still don't think I know anything about Lunicles, right? There wasn't like any point. There were points in that song where I felt like this felt a bit familiar. Like, not much, but little moments where I was like, do I recognize this? You
Hmm.
know, but then I'm like so certain that that I haven't heard anything by Luna Kills that I don't know if that was just, I don't know, me catching a beat or a melody or something like that that maybe I've heard elsewhere. Like, do you know what I mean? There's nothing in that I found familiar video wise, looking at the band, the lyrics, which were down the bottom that I was reading, although it didn't take long because it's just one verse, one chorus, then just
Yeah,
repeated.
it's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Yeah.
Uh, you know, so things that I liked. Let's go with things that I liked. Let's be positive
Yep.
first. Uh, vocals are good. Music's fine. Decent riffs, decent drums. It's all pretty good. Um, didn't have any issues with the video either. It's fine. Nice sort of above camera angles and all that sort of stuff. So, it's all pretty cool. Uh, some of the things I was less sort of sure about. So, like, weirdly, it's quite an alternative sort of feel, right? Like, it didn't, you know what I mean? Like, but it also has, to me, quite a new metal feel.
Mhm.
I was thinking, along the lines of the bands that were maybe like a little heavier and used some electronica back in the day, Static X, Spine Shank, that sort of thing. And I was kind of like, okay, there's a bit of a vibe, but maybe that's just the thing you kind of get with alternative metal. Maybe it's the fact that you mix electronica and heavier music. I don't know. Maybe I'm not too old now, and it just instantly makes me think of new metal. There are things in that I can see being a bit of a struggle live. Like, for example, one of the big cool parts of it, which is in the first verse, because they kind of start off with a bit of a chorus and then do the first verse, where a lot of the vocals are layered, and it's like her clean vocals and her harsh vocals over the top. So unless you're kind of like running backing tracks and stuff like that, you can't really recreate that in a live environment. But that's cool because every band does that.
Yep.
I'm not dissing them for that. Everyone does that. But like, it was such a cool component that I was like, oh, is there a backing singer like somewhere? Like, but it's like, oh no, it's layered. But it's cool. Um, I didn't like the intro. I really didn't. But like, I didn't hate it because it didn't come back like that again. My worry was that was going to be like the chorus, and then every time it got to a chorus, it was going to do that again. The idea that it was electronica and there was like mad effects all over her vocals and everything like that, but then it led into the song and didn't really go back to that too much
Hmm.
was meant that I was like, oh, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this. There were a few moments of electronica I quite liked. There's one near the end of it where it kind of comes in the background, more like a symphonic line along with the guitars and everything like that. That sounded epic. That sounded really, really big, really, really cool, and I liked that a lot. But then there are other moments where it's just a break in the song and you get a little like dum, 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 dum,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And I think like you could have just done that with a fucking bass guitar. What's he standing there for? Fucking get rid of him then. You know. But like, it's a little moments like that. But I'm being picky, overall. I didn't love it. I didn't hate
Yep.
it either. I'd probably listen to it again. It's probably the sort of stuff I'd be like, oh, Rose, check this out. What do you think? That sort of thing. So like not offended by it in any way. I thought it was fine, but I'm not blown away, I guess is where I'm kind of coming with it.
I think that's a fair summation. In fact, I think it's kind of where I sit with this specific track. I think for starters, the album has a lot stronger, more imaginative, more creative stuff. Because while I do think there's creative stuff in this, I think most of it lies weirdly around the electronica and effects more than anything else. Weirdly, my biggest criticism of this track is actually the more heavy kind of instrument side of things, which do some fairly generic stuff. There's nothing particularly memorable about that side of things. It's interesting that you think new metal because I wouldn't necessarily have jumped the new metal, but I certainly get a retro, an older style feel to this, certainly from a core perspective anyway. But I find the instruments, guitars and drums, that kind of structure and what they're doing rhythmically, quite basic, quite uninspired. It's helped by the fact that she does a lot of different things with her vocals, including some really strong screams at times that add a little bit of a kind of exclamation point to ignore elements that aren't necessarily that exciting about it. So I do find the experimentation with electronic quite the more outstanding stuff. I
Mm.
actually agree with you about the intro. And I think this is actually, I think if I remember, this just comes around the middle of the album. So I think there's a possibility that I kind of got used to a little bit more of that side of thing by this point, and that's why it didn't necessarily bother me hearing it here, but I do understand where you're coming from. And I thought like maybe throughout, because particularly with that chorus and slay your enemies part might be that might rub some people up the wrong ways, because it is a little obnoxious at times in kind of how it kind of stands out, and it varies it up and gets a little different in places as well. But that's the part where I can see, well, I almost think this track was written with live in mind, because you can see how that pops off, you can see how that works live, you can see what the design is for. You talked about the vocal layering, that sings. I think I've got an answer for that. I think I do. I would want to be right. Well, she just wants scream. Someone else in the band will, and it will be, it won't be her voice, but basically that's how you get away with it live, right? You just have the guitarist scream instead, if they can, of course, or you just use a backing track, as you say. I think that's how you get around it. What it's going to be ultimately the live portion. It's that slay your enemies part. That I can see the intro. They go right, guys. I just need what I need from you. This song is just to do this one thing, and that's what happens. I don't know. That's what I'm picturing in my head. I could be completely wrong, and this track will never ever been performed live, but I find that unlikely. In the grand scheme of things, it's often what we do with these kind of reactions. I've heard the full album. I think it works better in that context. I think it's a fine track on its own. I think it certainly comes from the modern alternative metal way of thinking, and a lot of the elements are there that are very familiar if you listen to a lot of this music. I often do, so I'm more used to that side of things, but it also means you have to work harder to stand out. I don't think this is necessarily that particular track. I think it's a good track. It's a solid track with some good ideas, and certainly shows a band with some creative force behind them. But in the grander scheme of things, I think that's shown on an album rather than a specific song. But yeah, that's about all I got to say about it, I think.
Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna come away thinking like I have a problem with them or anything like that, because I don't. And actually, weirdly, I didn't like how, other than some moments of it, but I've always been the same with electronic. I like electronic in music. I think like used right in the right manner. Like I don't ever want it to overtake the core instruments, because that's why I listen to metal. Realistically, it's kind of what got me into it: the love of guitars, drums, riffs, solos, that sort of shit. So, I don't want to ever be to the point where I'm listening to 3 minutes of music and there's like, I don't know, 2.5 minutes of electronic music followed by a quick drum blast or something like that. That's where you lose me. But using it in the right way is fine. And in that, predominantly, it was used in the right way. I thought the intro was fine because it didn't repeat too much. I wasn't too offended by the slay your enemies thing. I didn't really like pay much attention to it, to be honest with you. It was just a chorus line. That's all I kind of took from it. I was like, that's okay. And like I said, I actually really, really like the use of it at the end of it, because that's my favorite use of electronica, to be honest with you. That's when you're taking your heavy instruments and you're taking that and you're combining them to create like this deeper sort of, I don't know, more grand sort of layered found like sound, and that I love. So there are things in there that I did like. It's just like, maybe it's just the one track sort of fever, isn't it? It's like, if you listen to that on its own and say, what do I now think of this band? I don't think I really have an opinion yet. It's probably where I come with. I'm like, that wasn't enough for me to go, oh my God, my mind is blown. I now have to find more about this band. But it was enough for me to go, yeah, I like that a lot. I like that to my music. Probably I won't skip that if it comes up on the shuffle. So it's a start.
There we go. It's the experimentation of reaction videos. Slay Your Enemies by Lunar Kills. You got any thoughts on this you want to share? You know what to do. Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It does help us out. You can find us at gbhbl.com and across all social media platforms. And if you really want to give us a bit of extra support, please consider buying us a cup of coffee over on our coffee page. Thank you.